welcome to A Window to Bourne. I'm your host, Mavis Robinson, and I'm still here with Larry Weston. We're doing a part 2 of his interview, giving us a little sort of tour of downtown Buzzards Bay. Larry, you were right in the middle of telling me about sort of the progression of the fun bar rooms and restaurants, and we ended up at Baker's Five and Dime.
Baker's Five and Dime, and again, this is where Buzzards Bay becomes a one-sided town because of the railroad yard. And so all the stores that I'm going to talk about were on that side. In fact, everything was on one side, as I remember as a kid. But next to Baker's was, believe it or not, the First National.
The First National Bank?
First National.
Grocery store.
Grocery store.
Okay.
And next to that was a place called Newman's.
Yeah.
And that was a clothing store,
Okay.
men and women,
Yep.
nice store. And in between the First National and Newman's was a drugstore called Matt Shots.
Okay.
And Matt Shots was had a counter, soda fountain, was the main drugstore in Buzzards Bay. Although when we go back, there was another drugstore across from the fire station. I'll go back to that. So there was there was the First National, the Matt Shots, Newman's. Then there was the paper store where the buses came in and out. Mm-hmm. There was a package store in there.
There's a lot packed in there in
yes,
that little block.
Yeah. Then there was, next to that was the A&P.
Oh, okay.
So Main Street had two grocery stores.
Yeah.
The First National and the A&P. And I'll stop there and tell you that the First National ended up going over to where the Liberty Warehouse is now. It's, at the bypass at the intersection there behind Trench Cleaners. Mm-hmm. That's another thing that we can talk about, but that's where the First National went. Then the A&P left Main Street and went down to where the Ocean State Job Lot is now.
I remember it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But they were both on Main Street when I was a
wow.
little boy. And just beyond that was the Buzzards Bay Hotel, and it was a hotel, and it was the Buzzards Bay Hotel bar there.
Okay.
All right.
Now, what kind of hotel was it? Was it a sort of high-end place? Or?
No.
Okay.
No. Its glory days were when the trains came in the 30s and 40s, you know, and all the rich people would come down. There was a special train that used to come through, and my brothers would fight like heck to get to that train because it was the rich guy's train, or the dude train, or something like that.
Yeah.
And they would get down there because the trains from New York, this was a train special out of Boston, but they allowed some New York businessmen to get on it when they were going down to Woods Hole, right?
Yeah.
And it would stay a little longer, and they'd get on there because all the rich people were on that one to get the shoe shine boxes going. And
Right.
I remember that. But I was just a little kid, and I'd tag along with them, right?
How much would you get paid for a shoe shine?
I think my brothers, if they could get a dime or 15 cents or a nickel even, you know.
And then, so tell us how much a movie would cost, or.
I think it was a nickel.
Oh, not bad.
It was a nickel, and then it went to a dime.
Yeah. So if you get 3 shoe shines done during a little stopover, that's pretty good.
Yeah. I got to go back to Tiny Jim's.
Yeah.
Most people think of the Jimmy Fund and the Red Sox.
Yep.
They don't know that the Jimmy Fund was started by Lou Perini and the Boston Braves. See, when I grew up, there was Boston Braves and the Boston Red Sox, and we were all Braves fans.
Yeah.
Boston Braves. We followed them to Milwaukee. When they went to Atlanta, I no longer cared about them. But the reason I bring that up is that Lou Perini started the Jimmy Fund.
Okay.
Not the Red Sox.
Okay.
Boston Braves. And I remember Pat Sereni, who was the head of the Little League in our town, and I was just like a bat boy. I was too young. But we went and we made the first, tried to get the first donations for the Jimmy Fund. Mm-hmm. And we had little cups that say, "Give to Jimmy Fund." Nobody knew what it was. And I remember being in Tiny Jim's trying to explain what the Jimmy Fund was going to be for kids with cancer.
Yeah.
So it started with Lou Perini, the Boston Braves, in the 40s. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they've ever gotten the credit, the Braves or Lou Perini, that started that. But I remember the little cans we had, and people would go into the bar rooms. And
yeah.
Go and
You'd have all the Little League kids.
All of us dressed up in our uniforms, right?
Yeah.
And we'd go in and get donations, and people, they were a little liquored up.
Right.
But Pat Sereni started that. That was another great guy out of Sagamore that ran a lot of the programs in town, recreational programs. But anyways, continuing back to Main Street.
The Buzzard Bay Hotel, it's interesting because I've seen, over at the Bourne Archives, pictures of it looking like a very elegant place at around the opening of the canal, back in the early 1900s. But it, sort of probably progressed and got a little more.
It did.
Humble.
Yeah. And next to the Buzzard Bay Hotel, now that's an antique mark or something, whatever it is. But next to that, there's an alleyway or a little road, and right on the end was a bar room called the Pig's Knuckle.
Oh wow! Okay.
It later became Stan and Paul's appliance store.
Yeah.
Okay. And part of that was I remember it as the Bay Cafe. Okay. So there's a Pig's Knuckle, Bay Cafe, and beyond that, that's where Jimmy Dugan was a bartender. He was like Jackie Gleason on the Honeymooners when he played Joe the bartender.
Yeah, yeah.
I think Jackie Gleason took his Jimmy Dugan's hand motions, apron, and that's where he got his character. I think Jimmy Dugan was the character for Joe the bartender.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was like when he went to the cash register at the bar, it was like a pianist, with his fingers on the.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
Just beyond that was Boz and Ingles hardware store.
Okay. Yep.
Great hardware store, and they had everything, And above that was, my wife says that it may have been later on. There was a cobbler shop, okay, on Main Street. But I remember it as a kid being upstairs, okay, a cobbler shop, and there was also a seamstress up there, and it was Ronnie Bozingo, the Ronnie Bozingo that I know, is grandmother.
Okay.
She had a seamstress store.
Yeah.
And then on the end of the street was Bob's Bike Shop. Bobby Johnson, I talked about earlier.
Yes.
He had a bike shop down there.
Bikes and eggs.
Yeah. He went to house to house selling eggs.
It's a perfect combination.
Yeah. Well, the milk truck used to come with ice. We didn't. We used to have an ice box.
Yeah.
Before refrigerators.
So you remember before?
Oh, I remember when TVs came in, and we were the last family to get a TV. Oh, the Dugans have a TV now across the street. The Cajuns have a TV. The Gerards have a TV. We didn't have a TV, right?
Wow.
Yeah, they're all black and white.
A TV is one thing, though, but refrigeration, I mean, that's something that,
I remember we got a refrigerator, but we used to heat our house with a wood stove. And I mean a wood stove that was a range.
For cooking in the kitchen.
Yeah. In fact, I have 2 of those.
Oh, wow.
My mother-in-law has 2 of those beautiful things in her cellar that we can't give away. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
Ranges.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure a lot of rich people use them now, but take an army to lift them out of there.
Right.
But so Bobby Johnson was on the end of that block, and before where Delsey's gas station is now, there used to be Carl Bowles used to have a big store there, and I don't know what they sold. It was like 3 stories high. Okay, and behind that was the library, and it was a switchboard. When I was a kid, you used to ring the phone and get the operator, and she'd connect you with who you wanted. That was Sarah Bowles, and she was also the librarian.
So there's a library in Buzzards Bay.
There was then.
Okay,
there was another. There was a library across, across from the fire station where those buildings are going to be knocked down.
Yeah.
But when that was prosperous, where JD's was, and the drugstore I haven't mentioned yet, there was Marie Meyer was a librarian. There was a library on Main Street there years later.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the first library was behind Delsey's gas station. Well, Delsey's wasn't there, but it was in that area, and she was also the switchboard operator.
Yeah.
And in fact, when the fire horn went, it was Bourne when Buzzard Bay was so small that we used to have a thing on our wall that would tell us, depending on the rings of the horn, what street it was on.
Oh, wow.
You could look at it and say, oh, the fire's up in, this street or that street.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember Eddie Savage. He was a mailman, God rest his soul. And I was probably either in my early 20s. And Eddie was at my house when the fire thing went off. And Eddie says, come on, Larry. I said, I was in shorts. I had a beer. I was legal then. I was at my mother's house on Wilson Avenue. So we went up to the fire. It was on Elderberry Street in Queensville Park. And it was a house smoking up, burning pretty good. It was in the afternoon. So he says, I'll be back. I got to deliver some more mail. I'll come back and get you. I'm in the mail truck, all right? Can't do that these days.
No.
So anyways, I'm standing on the front lawn, and this guy's standing next to me. He says, "Quite a fire." I said, "Yeah, I got a can of Bud in my hand, drinking it." So, point of the story is, that night it was the first date. I met my wife on a blind date, and it was the first date. I used my sister's car. I was going to pick her up, take her out, all right, because the ship was in from Woods Hole. I was off for the weekend.
Yeah.
So I go to her house that night, and who should meet me at the door but the guy standing next to me at the fire.
Oh, really?
Who was her father. He was like a fire chief, right?
So we saw you standing around
With
drinking a beer in the middle
and
of the street?
I'm picking up his daughter.
How did that go over?
He was a cool guy.
Yeah,
My father-in-law, Les, was a cool guy. He just said, "That was quite a fire today, wasn't it?" I said, "Yeah, it was."
Yeah.
It was a way of
Made you thirsty.
yeah. But no, my father-in-law was a great guy.
Yeah,
A great
yeah.
guy. But anyways, going back to Main Street, Carl Bowles had a big store there. And in fact, I have to digress a little bit. When the 38 hurricane come, I wasn't born, but my mother lived on Taylor's Point, one of those old houses in back of the railroad station today. They were told the flood waters were coming up onto the point where they lived and to get to higher ground. So they went up Washington Ave and stood there, stayed in somebody's house. I forget who it was that she told me. And she remembers looking down at the floodwaters in Buzzard Bay, and all she could see was maybe a foot of the railroad station that's there today,
Oh,
a foot
wow.
of water.
Wow.
And so if people want to look, there's a 38 water mark on the station and a 54.
Oh, really?
And the
Yeah.
hurricane of 54, Carol.
Yeah.
And you can compare how much higher the water was between 38 and 54.
Which one was higher?
38, oh yeah. In fact, the 54 hurricane, or was it 53? But in any case, my brothers and I, we were running around in the storm. We were down by Elman's golf driving range along the canal, and the water was like up coming on the street. So we said, we better get out of here.
Yeah.
So we ran up Main Street, and we got up to the Buzzard Bay beach, which is on a hill, and we were standing there, and I remember to this day, maybe 6 or 7 houses floated down out of the fog and wind off of Taylor's Point from wherever else. And the railroad bridge that goes across there today, there was maybe a foot of water underneath that was visible.
Wow.
And the houses hit there. And
It hit the bridge in the
hit
canal?
the bridge,
Oh,
and
my
they were like
goodness.
toothpicks.
Wow.
Broke. And Buzzard Bay, you got to remember, Buzzard Bay is like the end of the world, end of the tunnel for Long Island,
Yes. Yeah.
Narragansett. Everything ends up in Buzzard Bay.
Yep.
In fact, after that 54 hurricane, I remember at the end of Buzzard Bay on Head of the Bay Road, there's a steep cliff there. The debris was level with the road.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Wow.
But I remember watching 6 or 7 houses float down in the fog. Finally, my mother caught up with us.
Yeah.
She found out where we were and hauled us home.
Yeah, she
all
must
right?
have been worried about
Yeah,
you.
she was. She was. But when
How old were you when?
I was either 10 or 11.
Okay, and your brother was a couple years older.
Oh yeah, they were all older than me.
Yeah.
But in any case, I remember we were all into outboards back then, and racing and things.
Yeah.
And I remember and everything was like Mercury engine. We loved Mercury engines. And the boats that hit that bridge and dropped, I've always wanted to, in the last few months, ask those guys dredging, how many engines did you find? How many
Right.
refrigerators did you find?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
we saw them, go under there.
Right. Right. And there must have been a huge debris
it was-
pile.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
they hit that bridge. It was
Yeah.
the force of the wind and the waves, and boom.
Wow.
And it didn't bother the bridge.
Wow.
And like I said, I saw houses collapse there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's
so,
amazing.
So that was interesting.
Yeah.
But
I can't believe you saw that with your own eye.
oh yeah, we were standing on the at Buzzard Bay Beach on the hill, and my brother spotted what's that? And we spotted the house coming down out of the fog and stuff, and we watched that one, and then we stood there until we saw several more.
Yeah.
And then my mother got a hold of us and hauled us home because
Right.
we only lived a few streets from the beach,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and she caught up with us. But going back to the buildings and stuff, so Carl Bowles had a big building there, but there were many.
What was the Bowles? What was that business?
I don't know if it was a plumbing store or appliances. I can't
Yeah.
remember what that was.
You've got an incredible memory. The fact that you saw all this stuff as a
Well,
kid, it really stuck
when
with you.
You grew up in Buzzard Bay. You didn't have all these gadgets they have today.
Yeah.
You had your bike,
Yeah.
your feet, and in fact, Buzzard Bay was so busy that there was a policeman that used to do the beat down there. We called him Two Gun Hurley.
Okay.
And this is, of course, right after World War II.
Yeah.
And he had two guns. So I think he patented himself after General Patton. With
Yeah.
The handles had pearls on them, with pearl handles. And we called him Two Gun Hurley. There was a call box outside of the paper store right near Newman's where he'd call in the police station. The police station was in the Bourne Town Hall in the basement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
okay.
where the
Yeah,
Bourne police
yeah,
station was, in
yeah.
the town hall in the basement.
Yep.
In fact,
So he'd be walking around and then just
he'd walk
check
up
in.
and down Main Street.
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
was, he kept us honest.
Yeah.
He was
yeah.
a great guy.
And there was no radios. He
No,
just was.
yeah.
He was seeing
And
things.
in
yeah.
fact, the town highway department was in the barns in back of the town hall. And in the winter, to make some money, we used to report down there during a snowstorm because we'd shovel the sidewalks and stuff in Main Street. In fact, everybody used to come over there to see if they could get a job.
Right.
But no, that's where the highway department was, and that's where the police station was. And I have to mention the little school.
Yeah.
The little school's where the Bourne Police Department is today.
Okay.
And it was a one-room school. It was kind of a big building, but the first graders sat on one side of the room and the second graders on the other.
Wow.
And,
okay.
and you didn't have kindergarten. When you're 6 years old, you went to school.
Yeah,
In Buzzard
yeah.
Bay, it was the little school.
And just 2 grades? Or
Yeah,
was it
first and second
first
grade.
And second. Okay.
And I remember, the first grade, what I really remember is we all fight to get shine the teacher's apple or whatever. They had a bell. And if you were good, you could ring the bell to get school started.
Yep.
All right? So I remember going back to the second grade, and I won't name the names, but you knew when a kid stayed back, he was still on the first grade side.
He was
They
sitting
kept
on the
kids
other
back.
side.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
kept kids back.
Yeah.
He didn't go to the second grade side.
Right.
all
Right.
And
That must have been tough.
yeah, I remember a few people that would. I don't think I ever did this. Somebody would say, "No, you're lying," but I remember like Robin Hood or some movie was playing, a cowboy movie, and we were big on going to Buzzard Bay Theater, and they drove out the window in the little school to go see the theater because the teacher used to let us go to the big movie. She used to let us out of school to go see the movie.
Yeah.
But she wouldn't.
Right.
And so I remember, I'm not going to say who it was, but I remember 2 guys went to the, we were talking first and second graders
Right.
bailing out the window to go.
7 years old.
to
Yeah.
go up to the movie.
Right. That's pretty incredible.
In fact, I have to go back to my wife when she and I started going out, and her uncle was Ralph Ellis, lived on Lafayette Street, and he and her aunt Bobby Ellis lived in Jefferson Shores. And when I first started taking her out, they said, "Who are you going out with?" And I said, "Larry Weston." And her Uncle Ralph would say, "Watch out for those Westons, they're tough." We used to have a garden with grapevines and stuff, and we used to sneak into his garden and steal the grapes. And he used to catch us, right?
Right.
But anyways, I ended up marrying his niece.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but no, Buzzard Bay, you had your bike, you spent your winters and the fall in the USO playing basketball.
Yep.
Of course, they had a pool hall. They had a pool table in there. Catherine Chamberlain was the director of the USO, the U. And they had card rooms, kaleidoscopes you could go in. They had a library room. I mean, that was the center of activity in the winter and fall. It was really a great place. Going back to the little school, after the second grade, Buzzard Bay kids were taken, and we went to the Sagamore Grammar School.
Okay.
All of Buzzard Bay. So I went to the Sagamore Grammar School.
So you got on the school bus and they.
Yeah,
Yep.
a guy named Herbie Magoon was my first driver. And he had a split down the middle of the bus. Girls sat on one side and boys on the other.
Okay.
And it was a petition.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Oh yeah, it was a petition on the
Wow.
bus, and you didn't cross that, or Herbie would get you.
Yeah. Yeah.
In any case, I went to the Sagamore Grammar School, the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grades. And halfway through the 7th grade, they said Buzzard Bay kids were going to go to the Bourne Grammar School.
Okay.
And I can remember Ann Cajun and a lot of the girls crying on the way home because, Cecilia Gallo was in my class, and she was a Sagamore, Paula Addy, and all the Buzzard Bay girls were crying.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was sad too, because all my friends, I only knew Sagamore kids.
Right. Right.
Both sides of the bridge of Sagamore went to the Sagamore Grammar, and
Yeah.
the Buzzard Bay kids. So anyways,
And halfway through the year. That's kinda,
halfway through
yeah.
the year, I have another halfway through the year story about schools.
So well, wait. First, so when you got to the Bourne Grammar School.
Halfway through the 7th
Yeah,
grade, didn't
yeah.
know any of the kids from Bourne Village, Monia
Yeah.
Peace, Pecasset, Catomet, knew none of them.
Right. Right.
So during that year and a half of going to Bourne Grammar, I got to know all of them, right?
Right. Right.
So when we got to high school,
Then you already knew
The
everybody.
Bourne kids didn't know anybody. I
Right.
knew everybody.
Right.
In fact, to this day, my best friends were from Sagamore.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It was kind of sad though, but the other half of the story is we went to the old high school for 3.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we were the first class, 1961, to graduate from this high school.
The new,
It was
okay,
brand new.
yes, yes.
And my cousin Dwayne, who ended up being a captain, colonel in the Air Force, smart kid, went to Tufts. He wrote a poem about this because when we moved in, the roof leaked. They
Of the new school?
The new high school,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
the roof leaked.
Yeah.
But they made us walk over from the old high school with all the books. We transported everything over here by foot.
The kids did it?
Yeah, the
Oh
kids
my
did
gosh.
it. Yeah, we did it. Yeah, we did it.
Wow.
Yeah. So halfway through my 7th grade, I got shipped to Bourne Grammar, and halfway through the high school
Yeah.
senior year, we were put in the new high school,
Right,
first year to
right.
graduate. So those were my half years.
Yeah.
But anyways, the Sagamore Grammar School kids were, they were nice kids. And in fact, I remember going to the Bourne Grammar, and one of the courses we were taught by Mr. Wallace, he was the principal, and Ellen Magnuson, she was my 7th grade teacher, was a course called civics.
Yep.
They don't teach civics anymore.
They don't?
Not that I'm
No?
aware of.
Yeah.
We learned more about how the state government ran,
Yep.
federal government ran,
Yep.
branches. And to this day, I talk to kids, they don't know, they don't understand. I don't know why they did away with civics, because it's a great,
Yeah, yeah, it's important.
yeah, it
Yep.
really is.
Yep.
And anyways, Mr. Wallace was something. I remember at Sagamore Grammar, Eleanor Priestley was the principal, and she spanked you. If you were in trouble, you went up there, you
my
held your
gosh.
hands out, she took the ruler,
Wow.
and she hit you on both sides of the hands, and believe me, she hit me a few times.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh.
And that's what's discipline.
Right.
And no parents ever complained or anything.
Right,
You know,
right.
you were disciplined.
Yeah.
I
you
remember.
go to jail for doing that these days.
Oh, I know, but
yeah.
that's the way it was.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you get hit on the hands with a ruler. And I can remember Mr. Posey, Roger Posey Sagamore. Remember him grabbing me by the scuff of the neck and bringing me up to Miss Priestley and saying, he's in trouble.
Wow.
So I remember the ruler coming out. And,
Yeah, yeah.
I remember.
What were you doing back then to be in trouble? I mean, what
I
kinds
don't
of
know.
hijinks?
It wasn't much.
Like spitballs or
Yeah,
pulling
probably.
hair
Yeah,
or
probably
something?
something like that.
Yeah,
It wasn't
yeah.
much. We weren't
Yeah.
bad kids. But I remember the bus drivers too. Larry Belegno was the driver from Sagamore Grammar to Buzzard Bay. I remember I was acting up, and he let me off in Bournedale and says, "Walk home."
Oh my gosh.
He did.
Wow.
I remember that.
Wow.
Me and Paul Musial.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
know, he said, "You guys walk home."
Wow.
And we had to walk home from Bournedale. You know?
That's a long walk. I bet you were better behaved on the bus after that.
Oh
though.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But they were nice people.
Yeah,
You know, I mean.
yeah. So Larry, you've seen so much change over the years. I mean, you know, we like to sort of compare the past to present day. I mean, what would you say the biggest change is for like a 12-year-old kid living in Bourne these days versus when you were 12?
Well, I would say the fact that with we had what we call the Wilson Avenue Wildcats, and the clubhouse was at my mother's shed. But all the kids, the Jacobs family, the Cajuns, the Bozaningos, the Gerards, Robinsons, Bessies, we all were friends. We all had not tree forts, but underground forts.
Underground?
Yeah, we call it not gangs, but we'd raid. The Jacobs always had the best forts down at the end of the street.
Yeah.
And we'd raid their forts and destroy them, right? And they'd come up and destroy ours and have to rebuild them.
Yeah.
Things like that. And as I said, playing basketball at the USO. Now they have it all, league. But we were there. We lived there.
Right.
We
right.
lived there. I mean.
And kids just showed up when they wanted to.
Yeah,
there was no
the same thing with
structured
baseball.
time.
Same thing with the kids from Monument Beach and Bourne and Pecasset. We played. We'd speak at school and say, "All right, we're going to play in Pecasset this week," and we'd go all meet. There was no recreation department or nothing. We just played sports.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the biggest difference. The kids are all structured now and all of that stuff, and it's good because, as I said, Pat Sereni came along and he was in charge of the Little League, and I played Little League and stuff. But I would say that the big difference too is that they have all the distractions now with the phones and applications. And
Right.
I remember a little girl came into my house a few years ago, and she said, "Mr. Weston, you ought to have a smartphone," or whatever they call them, right? I don't Twitter, I don't Facebook, you know.
Yeah.
I got a phone and I answer it. That's
Right,
it, you
right,
know.
right.
But I said, "Okay, tell me what they do," to Elizabeth. So she's telling me, I don't need that one. So she went through like 20 applications. I said, I don't
Right.
need them. I don't do that, you
Right.
know. So what's a 12-year-old knows that stuff? I
Right.
don't know it, you know, and that's their life. But our life was just being with each other, playing, depending on what the season was. I remember when we were in school, in high school, I was I was 8th grade, and my brothers were in high school, and they used to skip, Norman Bays used to have a big car, they'd skip school, they'd look in the old Herald, Record American, and they'd find out when Irma the Body, or some of the strippers at the Old Howard was playing, right?
Yeah,
and they'd
yeah.
skip school, and they'd take me along so I wouldn't tell.
Oh gosh.
And we'd go up to the strip shows, you know, but it was vaudevillians.
Right, right,
It was
right.
all shows.
Yeah.
It was all
Was
comedians.
that in town? Is that
In Boston.
In
We'd skip the
Boston,
school and
okay.
go to Boston and
Wow.
watch these shows, you know,
Yeah.
with Old Howard.
Yeah.
In fact, years later, I graduated from Suffolk University. I remember when they were tearing down the Old Howard and stuff, and I remember going down there. It was right near my college in Boston, and I remember some of the old strippers. They were like showgirls. They had beautiful dresses. They were nice people.
Yeah.
And I remember them sitting on the sidewalks crying as the
Because it
building
was
being-
closing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember
yeah.
that. You know, but of course I was in my 20s then.
Right, right.
But
So, Larry, before we have to say goodbye again,
Yeah.
just give us the insider's perspective. Tell us about a special spot in Buzzards Bay or in Bourne that not everybody might know about. One of your favorite places in town to go. Now,
my backyard.
your own backyard.
No. Well, I remember it was special when we were kids, and it's no longer special. It was a place called Sacrifice Rock up off Bourndale Road.
Yeah.
And we'd take our bikes up there. It was an all-day affair to get to it through the woods. Now you can drive right past it. It had tunnels in it.
Oh wow.
And we used to crawl through them as kids. We were all tiny, and that was a special place.
Yeah.
But today, it's very disappointing and disgusting to see Main Street the way it is now. You know,
Yeah.
as a kid, it was so vibrant, and I mean, it was never nothing special. But like I said, you had 2 grocery stores. You
Yeah.
had a department store. You had JD's, which was a clothing store down across from the fire station. Were some nice stores when they
Yeah.
were built. There was a drugtour there.
It seems like so much of it was tied in with the trains. I mean,
Yeah,
the
it was.
trains are
It was.
starting to come again. I know my brother just took the Cape Flyer last weekend back and forth.
Yeah,
I wonder
yeah.
if we might see a resurgence.
Well, I don't see how, I've got that book there that I brought, got some of the old schedules in it, and you could make from South Station to down to the Cape faster
Yeah.
than you can today, right?
Yeah.
In the turn of the century. But I can't see the trains going much beyond Buzzards Bay if the commuter comes back, because by the time they make up a train in Buzzards Bay, of course the switching yards are gone.
Right.
All right.
Right.
But by the time they made a train up to go to Woods Hole or Hyannis, if you were commuting,
Yeah.
you could be home by the time they made the trains up. So
Yeah.
the train service is only feasible to Buzzards Bay at this point.
Yeah.
And I know I commuted for 30 years or more. I mean, I travel all over the world, but the point is I commuted quite a bit, and I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see the trains come back, because when we were kids, we could go down and take the Bud Liner up to Boston, up to South Station. You know,
Right,
I remember doing
right.
that. We knew the train schedule.
Yeah, yeah.
And before that was the big steam engine locomotives. But
Yeah.
no, Buzzards Bay blew it. They should have made that with them. The gazebo is now, that should have been made into a marina, like
Yeah.
down in Sandwich.
Yeah.
Even behind the post office, the land they made into a park.
Yeah.
With they want to bring Buzzards Bay back. The vision should have been to put marinas in there.
Right. Right.
You know, with the shops that would have come in when you were in Florida or something.
Yeah,
You see these places.
all
that-
those shops, yeah, yeah.
It would.
Well, Larry, I just wanted to thank you so much. You've been a delight. I really loved
My
talking
pleasure.
to you. I loved hearing your stories, and thanks so much for sharing. You really brought old Buzzards Bay to life for me.
I hope so.
So yeah, thank you, and thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope to see you next time on A Window to Bourne.